The silence of City Z is not a peaceful one. It is heavy, thick with the dust of fallen skyscrapers and the haunting echoes of 1,000 battles. Through this gray graveyard of concrete, a man walks with a purpose that defies the desolation around him. Saitama, the hero for fun, is not looking for monsters today. His eyes are fixed on a crumpled flyer in his hand, his brow furrowed in a state of existential dread that no world-ending threat could ever provoke. The deadline is approaching. 10 minutes until the Saturday sale ends. 10 minutes until the legendary discount on cabbage vanishes forever. But as he rounds a corner, the air itself seems to change. It becomes crystalline, humming with an unseen frequency. Saitama's stride doesn't falter until his face abruptly meets nothing, or rather a nothing that feels like a solid wall of absolute zero. He stops dead, his nose pressed against a shimmering distortion in the air. He tries to push forward, but his feet slide back on the asphalt as if he's trying to move an unmoving mountain. High above, perched on the jagged edge of a tilted office building, sits a figure wrapped in black. Gojo Satoru, the pinnacle of the jujutsu world, tilts his head. His blindfold hides eyes that see too much, eyes that are currently struggling to comprehend the void standing before him. In all his years, through every curse and every sorcerer, he has never seen a presence like this. It is a terrifying lack of energy, a vacuum of power so profound it feels like looking into the sun and seeing only darkness. I was told an anomaly would appear today. Gojo's voice drifts down, smooth and melodic, carrying the weight of a man who has never known defeat. He floats downward, his feet never touching the grime of the street, stopping 10 feet away. He leans back, hands in his pockets, a playful yet dangerous smirk dancing on his lips. You don't look like a curse. You don't even look like a sorcerer. You look remarkably plain, and yet you just walked into my infinity as if it were a glass door you didn't notice. Saitama doesn't look up. He is staring at the invisible barrier, his frustration bubbling over. Hey you, the guy in the pajamas. Is this your invisible wall? Move it, I'm in a hurry. Gojo chuckles, a cold, elegant sound. Move it. My friend, you're asking me to move the very concept of distance. What lies between us isn't a wall. It's the infinite space that makes up the universe, brought into reality. You are slowing down the closer you get, infinitely. You could walk for 1 trillion years, and you would never ever touch me. That is the law of this world. Saitama finally looks up, his deadpan expression meeting the blindfold of the strongest sorcerer. He doesn't care about laws. He doesn't care about the mathematics of space. He cares about the ticking clock in his head. So, Saitama says, his voice dropping into a low, rumbling bass that makes the nearby rubble tremble. If I just hit it hard enough, it'll break, right? Gojo begins to utter a witty retort about the futility of physical force against a conceptual paradox, but the words die in his throat. Saitama draws back a fist, not a serious one, just a casual, annoyed swing, a normal punch. The impact doesn't sound like a fist hitting a shield. It sounds like the sky itself is shattering. A deafening, crystalline crack ripples through the air as the infinity under Saitama's knuckles begins to spiderweb with glowing, jagged fissures. The shockwave erupts outward, vaporizing the asphalt and stripping the glass from every building for 3 blocks. Gojo's smirk vanishes. His 6 eyes scream a warning he has never heard before. The barrier isn't just being pushed, it's being crushed by a force that doesn't recognize the existence of infinity. The first contact has been made, and for the first time in his life, the Honored One feels the cold shiver of a limit being reached. Gojo Satoru does not stumble, for he is a man who exists above the clumsy laws of physics, but the mental shock of the impact forced him to take a subconscious step back. He stares at the hairline fractures in the air, shimmering, jagged veins of light that indicate his infinity. The absolute law of his existence has been compromised. The dust hasn't even settled from Saitama's normal punch, and already the surrounding city blocks have been reduced to a flat, circular wasteland of pulverized stone. Unbelievable. Gojo whispers, his voice devoid of its usual mockery. His 6 eyes are working overtime, processing 1 trillion data points per second. He sees the flow of energy, or rather, the lack of it. Saitama isn't using cursed energy. He isn't using a heavenly restriction. There is no magic, no technique, no complex ritual. It is just raw, terrifyingly dense physical mass moving with such velocity that it treats the fabric of space-time as a mere suggestion. Gojo's blood begins to boil with a sensation he hasn't felt since his battle with Toji Fushiguro, the thrill of the hunt. He raises his hand, 2 fingers crossed. Cursed technique lapse. Blue. A sphere of intense azure light manifests behind Saitama. The singularity creates a vacuum of infinite attraction, pulling everything toward it with the force of a collapsing star. Rebar, cars, and the remains of entire buildings are sucked into the swirling vortex. The ground beneath Saitama's boots vanishes, the asphalt being torn upward by the gravitational hunger of the technique. But Saitama doesn't fly backward. He simply plants his feet in the empty air, his body leaning forward as if he's merely walking against a stiff autumn breeze. He looks back over his shoulder at the swirling azure abyss, his face a mask of mild annoyance. "Stop pulling on my cape," Saitama grumbles. "Dry cleaning is expensive." Seeing that attraction is useless, Gojo snaps his fingers. The blue vanishes, replaced instantly by a blinding crimson spark at the tip of his index finger. Cursed technique reversal, red. The repulsive force is instantaneous. A shockwave of pure condensed energy hits Saitama point blank in the chest. It is a blast designed to shatter mountains, a push that moves with twice the power of the attraction that preceded it. The explosion is so violent that it ignites the oxygen in the air, creating a pillar of fire that reaches the clouds. Saitama is finally moved. He is launched backward, his body a golden yellow blur cutting through the ruins of a shopping mall. Gojo doesn't wait. He knows it's not enough. He hovers in the air, his hands forming a complex seal. The azure light of blue and the crimson glow of red begin to orbit one another, dancing in a frantic, violent spiral. The air begins to scream as the two infinities collide, creating an imaginary mass that shouldn't exist in the physical world. Hollow purple, Gojo intones, his voice echoing with a divine authority. A massive orb of glowing violet energy erupts from his hands. It is a singularity of non-existence, a sphere that doesn't just hit things, it erases them from reality. Anything the purple touches is deleted, atom by atom. It tears through the ruins, a silent predator of absolute destruction, heading straight for the pile of rubble where Saitama landed. From the wreckage, Saitama emerges, dusting off his shoulder. He sees the purple orb approaching, a terrifying, world-eating phenomenon that defies all logic. Most men would scream, most gods would flee. Saitama simply narrows his eyes. He looks at his watch. 7 minutes left. The time for games is over. "I don't know what that purple thing is," Saitama says, his voice losing its bored tone and dropping into the serious register. "But it's getting in my way." He doesn't dodge, he doesn't retreat. He takes a wide stance, draws his right fist back, and prepares to meet the erasure of existence with a punch that has no name, no magic, and no limit. The air begins to ionize around his fist, the sheer pressure of his grip creating a vacuum that rivals Gojo's own techniques. The escalation has reached its peak. The unstoppable force is about to collide with the untouchable god. The violet orb of hollow purple shrieks as it tears through the atmosphere, a sphere of non-existence that leaves nothing but a vacuum in its wake. It is the ultimate expression of the limitless, a paradox made manifest, designed to erase anything it touches from the very scroll of reality. But as the singularity nears Saitama, the hero doesn't flinch. He doesn't even move to dodge. Instead, he braces his feet, the sheer pressure of his stance cracking the tectonic plates beneath him for miles. With a grunt of pure, unadulterated effort, Saitama swings. It isn't a complex technique. It is a punch delivered with the focused intent of a man who is tired of being interrupted. The collision is not an explosion. It is an ontological catastrophe. When Saitama's fist meets the imaginary mass of the purple, the laws of physics scream in protest. The erasure attempts to delete Saitama's hand, but his physical density, his sheer will to exist, is so insurmountable that the technique fails to find purchase. Instead of being deleted, the hollow purple shatters. It breaks like a glass marble under a sledgehammer, scattering violet sparks of raw cursed energy across the ruins of the city, igniting the sky in a bruised, flickering neon. Gojo Satoru watches from the air, his breath hitching. His 6 eyes are telling him something impossible. The nothingness was defeated by something. For the first time in his life, the blindfold is not enough to mask his shock. His hands are trembling, not from fear, but from the overwhelming realization that he is no longer the strongest being in the room. He is no longer playing a game. I see, Gojo whispers, a manic, beautiful smile spreading across his face. He pulls his hands together in a specific ritualistic seal. You aren't just strong, you're a glitch in the system. Physics, magic, space, they don't apply to you, so let's see how you handle a world where nothing is the only thing that exists. Domain expansion, infinite void. The world doesn't just change, it vanishes. In a heartbeat, the ruins of City Z are replaced by a literal eternity. They are standing in the center of a black sun, surrounded by a swirling, kaleidoscopic nebula of pure information. This is the inside of Gojo's mind, the core of the Limitless. Within this space, every sensation, every thought, and every detail of the universe is funneled into the victim's brain all at once. A single second feels like a century of sensory overload. It is designed to paralyze the target, drowning their consciousness in a sea of infinite data until their brain simply ceases to function. Gojo stands a few feet away, floating in the void. He looks at Saitama, expecting to see the hero's eyes glaze over, expecting him to go catatonic as his mind is flooded with the secrets of the cosmos. Here, Gojo says, his voice echoing from every direction at once. You can have everything, every thought, every feeling, every moment of existence, all at once. You wanted to know what lies at the end of the road. This is it, the end of information, the end of you. But inside the infinite void, Saitama is blinking. He stands there, looking around at the swirling galaxies and the cascading streams of data. His eyes aren't rolling back. He isn't screaming. Instead, he looks slightly cross-eyed, as if he's trying to solve a particularly annoying math problem in his head. Man, Saitama says, and his voice carries through the domain with a terrifying, grounded weight. This is like way too much. It's like being in a room with 100 TVs all playing different channels, and they're all loud, and they're all commercials. Gojo's heart skips a beat. You can still speak? You should be paralyzed. Your brain should be melting under the weight of the universe. I've got a lot on my mind already, okay? Saitama retorts, his voice rising in irritation. He thinks of the supermarket. He thinks of the cabbage. He thinks of the walk back home. I don't have room for all this extra junk you're trying to push on me. I told you, I'm in a hurry. Saitama begins to walk. He isn't flying. He is simply stepping through the infinite void as if it were a muddy puddle. With every step he takes, the infinite space of the domain begins to ripple and crack. The sheer force of his existence, his refusal to be overwhelmed by the nothingness, acts like a virus within Gojo's reality. The galaxies around them begin to flicker and dim. The infinite void is reaching its limit because it has finally encountered something that it cannot contain. Saitama draws his fist back again, and this time, the air around him doesn't just vibrate, it begins to burn with a white-hot intensity. The turn has arrived, the hunter has become the prey, and the god of the Jujutsu world realizes that his sanctuary has become his cage. The infinite void, a realm where time, space, and information are supposed to be absolute, begins to groan like a sinking ship. Gojo Satoru, the man who has spent his entire life as the undisputed peak of existence, stands frozen. He watches as Saitama's fist pulls back, not with the grace of a martial artist, but with the terrifying mechanical precision of a falling moon. The air inside the domain, which shouldn't even have physical properties, begins to ignite. The friction of Saitama's movement is so intense that the information of the void itself starts to burn away into white ash. Enough, Saitama says, and his voice doesn't just echo, it shatters the kaleidoscopic nebula surrounding them. I don't care about your void, I don't care about your infinity, I just want that cabbage. Serious series, serious punch. Saitama doesn't just throw a punch, he unleashes a localized big bang. The moment his fist connects with the air in front of Gojo, the infinite void doesn't just collapse, it detonates. The conceptual barrier of the domain expansion, a feat of supreme sorcery that is supposed to be inescapable, shatters like a cheap mirror hit by a sledgehammer. The violet and black skies of Gojo's inner world are replaced in a blinding flash by the gray, dusty reality of City Z, but the punch doesn't stop there. The shockwave from the strike hits the infinity, the passive barrier that has kept Gojo untouched by the world for decades. For a nanosecond, the math of the universe tries to hold. It tries to divide the distance between the fist and the man a billion more times to create an endless gap. But Saitama's power isn't a number, it's an absolute. The pressure of the punch is so great that it literally compresses the infinite space into a flat, broken plane. The barrier is crushed. The untouchable is touched. Gojo is sent hurtling backward, a streak of black and blue light. He crashes through 7 city blocks, his body a chaotic blur as he skips across the pavement like a stone across a pond. He finally slams into the base of a mountain outside the city limits, creating a crater so deep that the earth moans in protest. Above him, the sky has been fundamentally altered. The serious punch has split the atmosphere, parting the clouds across the entire continent, leaving a vast empty blue scar in the heavens that can be seen from the moon. In the crater, Gojo Satoru lies broken. Blood trickles from his nose and ears. The first time he has tasted his own iron in years. His reverse curse technique is working at maximum capacity, stitching his organs back together and knitting his shattered ribs. But his mind is elsewhere. He looks up at the parted clouds, his 6 eyes perceiving the raw, terrifying beauty of what just happened. He had spent his life searching for a peer, for a limit, for a reason to go all out. He found it, and it was a man who didn't even know his name. A man who treated his ultimate technique like a minor annoyance. Gojo laughs, a ragged, honest, and almost joyful sound. He has been humbled by the absolute, but back in the ruins of the city, there is no joy, only pure, unadulterated panic. Saitama stands in the center of a mile-wide wasteland created by his own fist. He isn't looking at the mountain where his opponent landed. He is looking at a clock tower that somehow survived the blast. The minute hand clicks forward. 1 minute! Saitama screams, his face contorting into a mask of true soul-crushing despair. The store closes in 1 minute! No! With a boom that creates a second earthquake, Saitama vanishes. He moves so fast that the air behind him turns to plasma, leaving a trail of fire as he sprints toward the district where the supermarket stands. He doesn't look back at the legendary sorcerer. He doesn't wonder about the fate of the world. He only sees the red sail sign in his mind's eye. The dust settles over City Z. Gojo Satoru remains in his crater, smiling at the stars, finally understanding what it means to be ordinary in the shadow of a true god. And Saitama, the strongest hero to ever live, reaches the supermarket doors just as the closed sign is flipped, falling to his knees in a defeat far more painful than any battle Gojo could have ever given him. The battle for the ages was over, won by a punch that split the sky and lost by a clock that didn't care for heroes.